Do it again. Do it again. We are the other people. We are the other people. We are the other people. You're the other people too. Find a way to get to you.
Okay. Okay, it's recording. I thought it was going to crash. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Other People episode. I don't care anymore at this point, because who really does?
It's like episode Who Really Gives a Fuck?
Pretty much. I am your host, Jordan. With me, as always, is my good buddy, Andy.
Hi.
And we're going to talk about a few things. So recently it came to my attention, and this actually came out probably about a week ago. One of the Let's Players who I follow from Video Games Awesome Live did a quick little vlog talking about how Nintendo has started up a YouTube channel program where they are a multi-channel network, and as I explained to you, it's a lot like what you see a lot of the bigger channels doing, like Channel Awesome or like Screw Attack, and shows like that where they take like other channels that they like or support, or maybe they do kind of the same thing where it's all about video games or movies or whatever. You see this happen all the time, where they will support them, they will give them advice, maybe they'll help them out with whatever sort of submissions or copyright bullshit that they have. And let me just say, like, as a very small channel, I've only had maybe 2 offers from major channel networks who have offered me to support them, or I mean, for them to support me.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried it once. It felt a little sketchy, but when I did it, nothing really happened. And that went on for about a month, and I got into contact with the same person who actually made the offer to me, and I was trying to talk to him about it. Wasn't really getting a lot of help from it. Like, I just joined
you
this
don't
channel.
need help.
It wasn't like that. Like, he just couldn't really give me any proper answers. And so eventually I just sort of quit, just like canceled it, which, was easy enough and no real ramifications. The only weird thing that I noticed that happened after I quit the multi-channel, and I believe the multi-channel was called Freedom. And after I quit, all of my monetizations from my videos went away, and so I had to reinstate them, which was a little annoying. But for the most part, since I'm such a small channel, and I don't really get many to any views at all, it didn't really affect me that much. It was just weird, and so now I'm very wary whenever somebody randomly hits me up and says, "Hey, would you like to join our multi-channel network? I've never heard of you." And I tried that once before, so not really. No. No. I'm just going to hang out on my own.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, ain't gonna fool me again, Jimmy.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, President Bush.
Sorry.
But, so Nintendo has started this program where they're gonna be a multi-channel, and you can actually sign up to be on their network, and they will support you. And how it's going to work, because originally what would happen was, anytime you did a Let's Play or probably even a review or any kind of video that was Nintendo related at all, what they would do is they would issue you a third-party claim where basically they take all your money from your video.
Okay.
Which, for people who are, actually trying to make money and can't,
That's kind of bullshit right there, but
yeah, because it's like, oh, hey, I did all this work and I'm showing off this game of yours that I thought was really cool, and Nintendo's like, oh, that's great, thanks. We're just gonna take all the money.
thanks for the money.
Yeah, pretty much, which is kind of bullshit. And there are already, I think, quite a few people who started like, well, I'm just not going to do Nintendo-based games anymore if that's how you guys are going to be. It's like, fuck you. Which is kind of shitty because it's like, well, like I do still love a lot of, be it some new or even some older Nintendo games. I have found, like, from time to time, I don't get hit when I do a Nintendo game. Like right now, my sister and I were doing a full Let's Play of the original Zelda, and only one or two of those videos have gotten hit with a third-party claim. The rest of the time, they don't. So sometimes it's kind of hit and miss. So I don't really get how that works. But basically how this deal works now is that if you join up with their network, they will do a 70-30 split where they will give you, I guess, 70% of your profit, and they'll take 30% of what you make off of your video, which sounds like a pretty damn good deal. But, well, there are a lot of other stipulations to it in that they have a whitelist of games that are not covered under this program, like none of the Smash Brothers games are covered, which is a bit odd.
Weird.
And kind of brought up the question of, well, what if you do a series of videos on a game that's not covered under their program? Will they still pay you? Will they not? Like, that question is not really answered as far as I understand. And then there's the big thing about they have it written under their contract where anything they deem objectionable, or hell, anytime you're being overly negative about a game, whether you're just making a joke, or hell, it could be anything that they deem objectionable, they can terminate the contract with you at any time.
Yeah.
And this is something I've already heard that's been going on for quite a while now in any form of game journalism. Like, recently I heard about what happened with the Shadows of Mordor game review, where they only handed out game review copies to certain game journalist companies like IGN and a few others who signed a contract with them saying they would do a review, but they couldn't say anything negative about the game. And
yeah, which that kind of defeats the purpose of a review.
Yeah. And especially from everything I've heard about Shadows of Mordor, that it's a good game. So, and it's just really shitty business practices. Is all it is.
Yep.
And what's worse is that, like, you especially see this happening with small indie game developers, who some of them release a shitty game, or hell, they will hit up an indie game Let's Player who also does reviews, and they will ask them, hey, would you take a look at this game of ours? And if they give it a shitty review, they will then try to take down their video and file some sort of a bullshit strike against their channel, to pass them over, and then claim like, oh, well, he had no right, to do we didn't give him permission to do a review. Yeah, you did. I still have the written. Hell, I still have the email.
Like, dude, I got you on tape giving me permission to do it, so
yeah.
Fuck you.
I have written proof that you gave me permission. You gave me a code, motherfucker. Like, don't go making shitty games. Make good games.
Well, and sadly, and this isn't just video game related. Like, movie makers do this shit too. They have pretty much since entertainment's been out there. It's like,
oh yeah,
and just.
Well, and what's kind of funny to me,
They don't want negative reviews. Anybody gives it a negative review or says anything negative about it, it's just like, oh, how dare he? We should sue him.
Yeah.
They've done that shit forever.
Well, and I wonder how different, because I'm sure there is a vast difference between, because we've had movie critics for decades, and I'm sure how it probably worked then was movie studios probably signed contracts with certain television shows that they would show and talk about their movies. But I imagine, like, depending on the critic, they probably still reserve the right to, I can say whatever the hell I want, whether I like it or I don't. I reserve my right to say whatever the hell I want.
That's probably why they started doing that, because in the early days, critics were probably pretty much just under the thumb of the studios.
Some of them, but I figure...
not all of them, but, like, a vast majority of them probably were.
Yeah.
Now, I may be completely wrong there. This is just my personal opinion, but...
Yeah.
So I don't want, like, anybody getting the wrong idea and saying how wrong I am.
Yeah. Well, and
mostly complaining to you because, well, they can't get to me, but...
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much. I may tell you about it later, but, I mean, it's never happened, so... But yeah, it's just,
it's shitty business practice. It really kind of shows that the persons that are doing this are scumbags.
They're scumbags. I guess they don't have much faith in their product, or they feel like they can just abuse the system for their own right. Yeah. And which is just incredibly shitty. And I mean, it's shitty business practices that will make people, at least people like me, who do kind of read up on this news, and do listen to a lot of video game related news, that will make me go like, why the hell would you do that? And make me kind of wavery about, well, do I really want to support that company?
Yeah.
Do I really want to support that game if that's how they conduct business? I don't know.
Yeah, especially if you have, like, a good game.
Yeah.
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 Because, I mean, even good games get bad stuff said about them every now and then. It's part of a critic. You're going to point out the negatives.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and, like, it's always a thing, certainly as a critic, to point out the cons and the pros of a game or of a movie. It's constructive criticism.
It's constructive criticism, man. It's
so
there are some that go way too far with it, but
where all they say is nothing but being negative.
Is the negatives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this whole Nintendo thing. I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that you have to sign a contract with them. And the fact is that they can change their rules at any time, and they can go through your entire library, and they can either demand you take down a video that they don't like, or they can stop supporting you entirely. It's like, why the hell would you want to sign a contract and be a part of a multi-channel that's going to leash and collar you the whole time?
Well, sadly, some people don't actually look at the contract. It just looks like, woo, I can keep 70% of my profits, and this guy will actually support me. I'll sign right up. And they don't even look at the fine print or the actual contract and see what the restrictions are.
Yeah. Like, I would hate to be a part of anything where I wouldn't be allowed to say or do whatever I wanted.
Yeah.
I would hate that. And again, I mean, I'm a pretty small channel, so I don't imagine that they would even want to take me anyway, because I am so damn small. But I mean, it's just, it sounds so incredibly shitty, and it just sounds, no. No, I mean,
Yeah.
it just sounds bad.
But they can get away with it because they're Nintendo.
Because they are a very powerful corporation.
You know, they're a multinational corporation.
Yeah.
They can get away with it. And technically, they're not really breaking any laws because they actually have it there on the contract.
Yeah.
It's just, sadly, most people aren't smart enough to actually read their fucking contract.
Yeah, usually. I mean, hell, I know I never read, when I'm signing up for something, but yeah, but
You should though.
well, and like, it's never for anything like, oh, I'm renewing or updating something from iTunes.
It's like, well, yeah, that's a little different,
Yeah.
But
it's not like I'm signing a contract for a brand new car, or something like that. Or,
yeah.
Which
Most major
I would
things
never
like
buy a
that,
new fucking car.
Yeah.
Mostly because I can never afford a new fucking car. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, and I mean, at least Nintendo is evolving where they are accepting that, oh, well, people are, obviously going to be doing more Let's Plays, because Let's Plays have been a thing for nearly 10 years now at this point, and they're growing in popularity. There have been some game studios and some people who have tried to shut it down, but they've only tried doing it recently, which is just not going to happen.
Yeah, well, that's Nintendo for you.
Yeah.
Stuck in the past.
Well, I mean,
which is not necessarily a bad thing.
I mean, they're not trying to shut it down. They are trying to be more a part of it, and they are at least accepting it. I mean, it's not like hell. Like there was a time for a while. Like here's a really bad example. Sega was going around and getting people's videos banned who were talking about Shining Force, whether they were showing video clips or just talking about Shining Force. They were getting their videos and their channels banned.
Really? For a game that old?
And apparently they were doing it because they wanted their own kind of advertising for whatever new Shining Force game it was that they were going to be working on. But
yeah,
still,
that apparently never saw the light of day.
I guess, but it's like, wow, Sega, really? And from what I understand, Sega has not managed to make a decent game in probably the last couple of years.
No, not really, no.
And hell, from what I understand, the last Sonic game that they made, which I think was called Sonic Boom or something like that, I heard from reviews that it was shit. That it wasn't very good.
Me.
And from what I understand, a lot of their recent Sonic games have not been very good. But yeah, and again, like this was another sort of action that would prompt people to say, like, well, because of this action, because they're, doing this to my livelihood, to my channel, I'm boycotting Sega. Fuck.
Yep.
I will never cover another video game of theirs on my channel ever again. Now, I mean, and that hasn't happened to me, but if it did, that sort of thing would piss me off enough to say, fuck Sega. I'm never supporting them again. And like Nintendo, like they never, did anything like that. Like the worst.
No.
Is
they're kind of being out front with them and screwing people.
Yeah. Like really, I mean, like the worst thing that they do, is that third-party claim, which does take away any money that you make from it, but your video is still up and viewable.
Yeah.
It does still suck if you are, actually trying to make money from it, which is, I understand, one reason why some people on YouTube will not just cover Nintendo games anymore because they know, well, I'm not going to make any money from it, so why should I even do it? It's like, yeah, that's actually a good point.
That makes sense.
Which sucks. It does.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. But I don't know. I mean, hopefully that's something that will change. Hold on a second. I imagine you can't hear this, but here I'm putting my headphone against the mic. If you can hear this, no, it stopped. I have this new thing that happens now on my system at random. All right, so you're probably not aware of this. If you don't have this thing called ad blocker while you're on the internet, you're browsing YouTube, you'll get an ad that will play, before or after a video, or sometimes even in the middle. Well, ad blocker stops those ads from playing. Mm-hmm. Well, recently I have this new thing that happens where now, randomly, an ad, audio only, will play somewhere on my system. I don't know why. I don't know how. I have my virus scanners running now every goddamn day. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't stop them. I could not be running Firefox and an ad will play. Sometimes it'll play multiple ads in the span of an hour or so, sometimes a half hour. And it'll interrupt me in the middle of conversations that I'm having over Skype with somebody, like just recently.
Just like just now. It's corporate America, Jordan. They're trying to hypnotize you.
It's not corporate America. It's probably some kind of fucking virus that my system has that it can't get rid of, or some kind of glitch somewhere, and regardless, it just keeps fucking happening now, and it pisses me off. And
maybe it's the aliens trying to communicate with you, Jordan.
Yeah, they want to communicate me through sending me a Marie Calendar ad. We know the Marie Calendar. Fuck off! God damn it! And so the only other solution I found is I have to pause whatever I'm watching and just slam the mute button and then just wait 30 seconds for it to stop.
For the ad to go away.
Because you can't pause the ad. There's no video ad for you to pause or anything like that. It's just there. I don't know, and I don't know what the fuck to do. I've tried...
the internet trying to fuck with you, Jordan.
I don't know. To be honest, the only other solution I could think of would be to take my computer to Ron and have him take a look at it and probably fuck over my system even more. Anyway, and I'm sure it's going to happen again, and if it does, I'm going to let you know, because if you start talking and an ad plays, I'm not going to be able to hear you.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll warn you, and we'll stop. God fucking damn it! It for like the past fucking week, and sometimes it gets really bad, and then other times it's okay. I mean, thankfully it's never happened while I'm listening to my music. Yeah, because when I listen to my music, I crank it up really loud.
Yeah, that would get really annoying.
Yeah. Yeah, you know Marie Calendar. Shut the fuck up!
Like, oh, God damn it!
It's, it's like, did you ever see that episode of Aqua Teen Hunger Force when they started getting pop-up ads just showing up like in the real world?
No.
It feels a lot like that, kind of.
I should watch that episode.
It's God.
That would be hilarious. Annoying as hell, but hilarious.
Yeah. Oh man. And it's even worse. When it's those kind of pop-up ads that you can't, make go away at all. Even when you push, the close, or like, no, I don't want this, but it just keeps on coming up in your fucking face. And the only real way in which...
Like, are you sure? It's like, no. Are you sure? No, I don't want breast implants. I'm a guy. Are you absolutely sure? Yes, God damn it.
Like, sometimes, like, I found, like, the only way to make it stop sometimes, not the ads, that will overplay, but, some of those spam ads, which doesn't happen, anymore, is, well, hell, I mean, that was why I got ad blocker, so that shit just doesn't happen anymore. And also, because, like, sometimes, there will be an ad program that will play on the homepage of a website that will have audio to it, and even if you pause it or mute it, when it moves on to the next ad, it will unpause and unmute it. And that was happening for quite a while on the Rage Select website. That was just so goddamn annoying that I said, sorry guys, I gotta turn on ad blocker. This shit is irritating. Because it would just happen all the time. And now, it just happens all the time, regardless, even if I'm not online. So it's just like, just one more factor of my life, apparently.
Yep.
Alright, so anyway, let's move on from this, from another topic that we were going to talk about. Andy, you were telling me about how apparently Friday the 13th is coming up in the coming week, and you've been doing a Friday the 13th movie marathon.
Yep, just watched the first two, and either tomorrow or the next day I'm going to watch another two, and pretty much get all the way through the first 8 films by the end of the week.
Now, is this what they're showing, or is this...
No, I actually have DVDs of those films, and I'm just watching them.
Oh, okay, nice. Do they still show a small marathon of the Friday the 13th movies on the 13th, or...
If they do, I haven't seen it for a while, but then again, I don't watch a whole lot of TV anymore.
Yeah. I know there was a time, this was probably like 10, 15 years ago, though, because I remember the USA channel, like either on the 13th or before the 13th, they would show a couple of the Friday the 13th movies.
No, I'm pretty sure Sci-Fi will probably do something about that. That seems to be their thing now.
Yeah. Well, if so, then they'll probably play one of the later movies. So either Jason X or Jason Goes to Hell or something like that.
Yeah. I don't care that much for Jason Goes to Hell, actually.
It's got some interesting bits, but so I thought for this one...
it was the whole Jason's possessing people to try and get reborn thing that was kind of just... Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I thought for this one, how about we kind of go through chronological order of the Friday the 13th movies. Try to keep it... For
me?
Huh?
That works for me. Try to keep it short, but...
Yeah, kind of. Because a long time ago when I got into my horror movie craze, I did rent a whole bunch of the series of various different horror movies, Friday the 13th, of course, being one of them, because I probably only saw a few of the later ones before I started my marathon and just started from the beginning. Never really kind of knew how it started. I mean, I knew it started with his mother.
Yeah.
In that she was the original killer in the first movie. I think that's something that that a lot of people, at least very early on, probably forgot about, was that Jason was not
that's just it, because, well, a lot of people kind of associate the beginning with actually the third film, with the hockey, where he actually for the first time put on the hockey mask.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people think it began, but no, that was actually the third film.
Yeah. Well, and I know, I guess it was probably assumed for a while that he changed masks a few times, but really he only did he only did it twice.
Yeah. He
'cause-
went from basically kind of like a Klansman hood
yeah.
type thing to the hockey mask, and that was it. And then
Yeah.
they just stuck with the hockey mask.
Yeah. And a very prominent theme throughout most of the Friday the 13th movies, which is something else that I guess some people seem to forget, is that the one who often survives and will sometimes kill Jason is was a woman.
Yeah.
In fact.
And yeah, that it's kind of the stereotypical slasher thing to where the woman always dies at the end, and they're bimbos and whatnot. But no, actually, the Friday the 13th ones, they're actually not.
Yeah. Well, and Friday the 13th started out pretty simple enough, where they were a bunch of camp counselors who were going out to the camp out on Crystal Lake in order to fix it up and and get it started. And they weren't as outlandish or stereotypical as most slasher
They were actually a bunch of normal kids.
Yeah.
They were actually decent kids. Like,
yeah.
In the second one, there was a little bit of weed smoking and a little bit of sex doing. There was the first one too, but
yeah,
that shit, it just happens, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's going to happen, especially
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And that's naturally going to happen, especially when one of your camp counselors is Kevin Bacon. So
exactly.
That
spoiler for those who haven't seen the first film. Very young Kevin Bacon actually gets a arrow shoved through his neck.
Yeah. Very slowly and very brutally.
And they twist it there at the end too. It's kind of
yeah. I don't know or remember if that was his very first film. I know
it was one of them. I don't know if it was the very first one, but it was definitely one of them.
Yeah. And it was also, well, I mean, it was a bit of a twist at the end, because like up until then, like you never, and I can't really remember her name.
You actually never actually see the killer.
Yeah.
You never actually see Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
She was always just known as Mrs. Voorhees.
Yeah.
They actually did a really good job of just basically doing it from the killer's perspective.
Yeah, from POV.
Throughout most of the kills, and they never actually showed you her until the very end.
Yeah. Which they did take from the Halloween movie. The whole POV shot.
Was
Halloween came out
first before
Halloween came out
before
Halloween came out I believe the late 70s, and Friday the 13th came out I think early 80s.
Yeah, actually right at 80s. It was 1980 when the first one came out, and then a year later they did the second one.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is funny.
I was just trying to remember
because I have the original Halloween.
Yeah. I was just trying to remember if Mrs. Voorhees did introduce herself with a first name. I just can't remember if she did or not.
I don't think she did.
Yeah. Well, anyway, she, as I'm sure everybody probably knows at this point, she went nuts because her son drowned because the counselors were off fucking.
Yeah.
And she
wasn't watching him, and he drowned, and of course, you later find out in the second film he actually didn't drown.
Yeah, apparently. And like the films go on, and they adapt the slasher killer motif, which goes on. Gets a little predictable, gets a little stale from there. I will admit.
A little bit, but it still holds up even today, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, kind of.
Of course, by the 6th film, that's when we start running into the undead Jason.
Oh yeah. I was
Where he
gonna
just kind of
mention.
gets more and more decayed.
I was going to mention though. Was it 4 that was dubbed the so-called final chapter?
I believe so.
Yeah, where they
No,
actually-
not the 4th one. I think that was the 5th one that you're thinking of. No, the 5th. No, yeah, you're right. The 4th one was the final chapter. It's the 5th one was the new beginning. Hold on a second.
I'm just going to bring up a list of the Friday the 13th movies.
Yeah,
Wikipedia.
you were right. The 4th one is the final chapter.
Yeah. Let's see. Films. Yeah, Part 4, 1984, the final chapter.
Uh-huh.
And he was killed by a very young Corey Coleman as well.
I think that was like one of his first films too.
Yeah. He gets his own machete shoved through like the side of his head, and then it pierces his eye, and yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of graphic.
Yeah. Well. I mean, when weren't any of the deaths in any of the Friday the 13th movies graphic?
Yeah, I mean not graphic. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess some people really didn't like Friday the 13th 5, A New Beginning, because it turned out, it wasn't Jason, it was just some guy impersonating Jason. But
it was some crazy guy who was getting revenge for his son. And I actually kind of liked the fact that they kind of had a twist where it wasn't Jason at the end.
Yeah. And what was, and what was kind of interesting about that one was that one for me was actually kind of scary, just because the kills. Quite a few of them were the same, because it was like when he killed them, he also carved out their eyes as well.
Yeah.
That made it even scarier and brutal for me, especially.
Yeah. And I kind of like the end of it, to where they kind of hint that Tommy's going to actually kind of become the new Jason.
Yeah. So in the next film, he doesn't.
Yeah.
It might have been a bit interesting if had they stick with.
Kind of stuck with that.
Yeah, but I guess because there were a lot of people who really didn't like 5, and so they decided, well, okay, fine, we won't do that. We'll just bring Jason back, I guess.
Yeah, with a lightning bolt, no less.
But I kind of like Zombie Jason.
Yeah, it kind of added a little bit of one thing, because it kind of led some credence to why he was unkillable.
Yeah. He was stoppable in that Tommy just anchored him to the lake, basically. Yeah. And 6 is definitely where it does get really silly.
Yeah, it kind of
not
falls
overly
into that.
silly, but a little silly.
Yeah. I still kind of enjoy it, but,
Yeah.
They did get, like, a little silly with it.
Yeah. But, I mean, the characters were still enjoyable. None of them were douchebags or anything like that.
Yeah, not like horror movies nowadays.
Yeah, where I don't know why filmmakers feel the need that all of our characters, or at least a few of them, need to be assholes. I do not get that.
It doesn't
at all.
Yeah, I don't either. What makes the death tragic if the person's a decent guy? He's decent, not an asshole. If he's just an asshole, then he just kind of deserves it.
Yeah. And anyway, we move on from Jason Lives over to The New Blood, where Jason now fights a psychic. That's when it gets really silly.
Yeah, that was who actually literally summoned him from the lake.
Well, and it was on accident because she was trying to save her father, apparently.
Yeah,
or like see if she could
she was like
back, or
trying to summon her father or something, and
who she accidentally killed out of her anger.
yeah.
And again, I mean, the whole psychic power thing is kind of silly, but I mean, it does at least serve for an interesting plot. I will admit.
Yeah.
You know, because she's horribly
especially
guilt-ridden.
with the douchebag therapist that's basically just using her to further his career.
Well, and like he was also, I guess, doing some research on Jason, too.
Yeah.
So, and I was kind of wondering, like, what, like, was she, was he trying to hone her power so that she could fight Jason or defeat him, or was that just a whole
or is she
separate
like
thing?
connected to him somehow, or
there wasn't much else to it. There were some more brutal deaths that were pretty good and such. There was the evil bitch in there, of course.
Yeah.
Who gets rightfully killed with an axe to the face.
Yep.
Which I did enjoy.
Yeah. I kind of cheered when that happened, quite frankly.
Yeah. In fact, didn't we watch that one together too?
Yep, we did.
Because
I think we rented it at Hastings one time and watched the entire thing.
Yeah. Well, because I know we watched. Well, I mean, I think I showed you 6. And we watched that one together. I know we watched Jason X together.
Yeah.
And I think we watched Jason versus Freddy together.
Yeah. Yeah, we did.
As well. Anyway, and what's kind of interesting about the way New Blood ends is her father comes back, like, out of the lake and grabs Jason and, like, wraps him up in a chain and then drags him back down.
Yeah, drags him back down to the end of the lake.
Yeah, which I thought was like, okay, that was actually kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
I will admit, Jason's face, which you do see in New Blood because she breaks his mask. I remember it freaked me out when I first saw it. I imagine if I went back, it would probably look kind of silly.
Yeah, it was, because he was kind of always deformed.
Yeah.
And apparently being undead didn't help that any.
Well, being undead might have slightly improved his looks a bit.
Yeah.
And then we get into kind of even sillier territory with Jason Takes Manhattan.
Yeah, to where he basically somehow winds up on a cruise ship that's going to Manhattan and ends up chasing these kids that were on the cruise ship all through Manhattan, and it ends with him getting killed by toxic waste in a sewer.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of remember how it starts in that there's this couple on a boat. They're fucking around. Somehow their boat gets entangled with these electrical wires, which is what brings Jason back to life.
Yeah.
He climbs up on the boat, kills them both. I don't remember how the hell he gets on the cruise liner, though.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. I'll probably find that out Friday.
But I think I remember one of the other girls. Turns out one of the girls who was on the cruise liner, she had an encounter with a young Jason who tried to drown her.
Yeah.
When the camp counselor, who...
I think it was like either her father or her uncle shoved her into the lake trying to teach her how to swim.
Yeah. And she practically drowned and...
Yeah, and kind of forgot about it.
Yeah.
Childhood drama.
Yes, and such. Childhood trauma. Delicious. Yeah, that one got a bit random. My one favorite part, though, is when they're walking down the streets of Manhattan, and there are these punk kids, and they're listening to their music, and Jason just kicks over the stereo, and they threaten him, and he just turns around, stares at him, and then just lifts up his mask. And they're like, forget it, man, it's cool, and then just run off.
It's like, really? You want to fuck with me? Come on.
You want to fuck with Jason? Don't you know who I am? I'm Jason Voorhees, bitch.
That fucker. I've been killing punks like you for years.
And then, the toxic waste thing comes, and when he dies, he reverts back to a child.
Yeah,
And
that
I think
was...
the body disappears.
Yeah, that was kind of weird.
It's
and
symbolism!
we gotta admit, we gotta also mention that the main heroine in this is constantly like having flashbacks of Jason's childhood.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, kind of mixed in with her own childhood, but she was like getting like little flashes of him as a child. She actually even experienced him drowning.
Well, and again, I've really only seen Jason Takes Manhattan once.
Yeah.
I do remember.
I just caught like little snippets of it when they were showing it on Sci-Fi one night.
Yeah.
That's the only reason why I remember that.
I remember the black kid who was a boxer fighting Jason, and he was, I don't know if he was purposely trying to knock Jason off of the roof that they were fighting on until the kid just got exhausted and it looked like his knuckles were just bleeding and broken, and then Jason gets to take a swing and just knocks his head clean off and kills him.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's kind of unfair.
I gotta love that superhuman strength.
Yeah. And then moving on, we get Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday.
Yeah.
Which
turned out not to be the final Friday, so.
Well, of course not. Well, hell, I mean, it's pretty hard to try to title your movie when they already tried to end it at 4.
Yeah.
So, that was kind of the last one I saw before Jason X came out. In fact, there really wasn't another Jason movie for 8 years after Jason Goes to Hell. So It did seem like the franchise was kind of put to rest at that point.
And then they decided to do Jason X.
Yeah. So Jason Goes to Hell, and here's, here's something else that I don't remember if it was just me who was always kind of annoyed by this. Jason's body type changed so damn much all throughout the movies, whether he got taller or beefier.
Yeah, he kind of starts off as kind of a skinny guy, and then he just kind of gets bulkier and bulkier.
Well,
time goes on.
Because I know by 6, they got the same guy to always come back as Jason.
Yeah.
I forget the guy's name. I want to say Toby Hunter, but I know that's not right. It's probably listed in here somewhere, I'm sure. Yeah, there was a television series, there was a comic series, documentary, merchandise, blah, 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 blah. Music. Yeah, I think the theme for Halloween, I'm sorry, for Friday the 13th was pretty... Halloween. It was another one of the horror series that did have its own theme to it. Kind of. It was Kane Hodder who came on during 6. Or actually, he came on, I guess, during New Blood. I guess. Or I thought he came on during 6. All right, whatever.
Moving on.
But yeah, I would certainly say in Jason Goes to Hell, that's about as big as he gets. In there, and his head is even larger. Like his mask is like paled in comparison to the size of his head.
Yeah, like barely covers his face.
Yeah, and And I wonder, like, how is that mask even on? Like, well, like, is it just glued to his face?
It's like it's like what you don't see is a whole bunch of duct tape.
Yeah.
Inside the thing, just kind of.
Yeah. And they kill Jason in like the first 10 minutes of the movie. They blow him the fuck up.
Mhm. And then you spend like pretty much the rest of the movie just watching him possess people.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of dumb. You know, because now
especially the first one where the doctor eats his heart.
Yeah, where now Jason is magical.
Apparently.
He's magical.
And of course, the only way to kill him is to actually, with a Pacific dagger wielded by a Voorhees.
Yeah, and now they're also introducing the fact that, oh, he has other siblings that nobody knew about, and...
Until now.
Yeah, it's all just very plot convenient. The deaths were a lot more graphic in this one. More especially after Jason's entity leaves a person and their body just decays and rots and just kind of turns to slime.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you this real quickly. Which one of the Fridays is probably your favorite?
Right now, probably 3 to 5.
Really?
Either one of those.
I know a lot of them I've only ever really seen once. The only one I've really watched again and again was 6. So I would say 6 is probably my favorite.
Yeah. And I can kind of see why, but...
Yeah. It does get a bit...
they've kind of overshown 6 now because
I
have this one channel called Epic's Drive-In, and they're right now kind of showing a whole bunch of Friday the 13th things, and 6 seems to be their go-to one.
Right. Well, I mean, I could imagine 6 is probably on a lot of favorites lists.
Yeah.
I bet. Okay, Granny. All right. Anything else you wanted to point out about the Jason Goes to Hell before we move on?
I can't remember this actor's name who was playing the bounty hunter that was going after Jason.
Yeah. I know he's been in a lot of stuff. I can't recall his name either. He was good in it.
Yeah.
He's probably always good in.
Yeah, he kind of seems to play that role quite a bit, though.
Yeah.
And a little typecasting there.
Yeah. And so, moving on next, of course, we get to the horror movie cliche that always has to happen. It hasn't happened to everybody, but it has happened quite a bit, and that's Jason X, Jason in Space. I'm trying to recall all the other horror movie characters who did go to space. Hellraiser went to space.
Yeah, Hellraiser went to space.
Critters?
Leprechaun went to space. Well, Critters was kind of from space, so that doesn't really count.
Yeah. I was actually going to point that out because technically Critters already were from space. They escaped a space prison planet, in fact.
So that doesn't really count. So
yeah, and so it's like, for me, it's like Critters were already pretty damn ridiculous. So, but yeah, Leprechaun went to space in 4. I never watched that one, but I heard it was bad.
It's in that category where it's so bad it's almost good.
Yeah, and Jason X is actually pretty damn fun. It's pretty damn enjoyable.
Oh, it's
and like it's not meant
bad,
to
but it's kind of it doesn't take itself seriously, so it's kind of good bad.
Yeah. In fact, a pretty famous horror director is in like the first few minutes, and then and then he's brutally killed. his name escapes me right now. I mean, he directed the remake of The Fly from the early '90s.
Ah.
Cronenberg. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
He's also the same director who made Scanners. Just a whole bunch of like what are known as like some of the best and most creative movies.
Yeah.
His Fly was definitely very, very, very good.
Yeah. Though the first one, the sequel was just.
No.
Oh.
Well, I mean, he had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
That
but,
was crap.
Yeah.
And Jason X starts off where they have Jason as a prisoner in like some sort of a maximum government facility.
Yeah, because he can't die. They've tried.
And so what they decided to do was they were going to cryogenically freeze him, and this government scientist douchebag who's played by Cronenberg says, "No, we're going to use him as a weapon." It's like, you do realize he's uncontrollable, right? And he breaks out, kills every single one of them.
Yeah, just to kind of prove the point.
Yeah, it's like, oh wow, we really didn't think about this, did we? And the woman who freezes him and kind of gets frozen herself, I think is the same woman from another television series that was going on at that time called Andromeda. It was another
I think so.
space TV show with the dude who played Hercules for a little while.
Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, thank you.
Well,
she's a pretty good actress. She's pretty much our heroine all throughout the movie, as is typically the case for a lot of the Jason movies. It's often a woman. Sometimes it's a woman and a man. Sometimes.
It's usually a woman.
Yeah.
I think 6 is kind of the one exception to where Tommy is the hero in it.
Yeah.
With a girl helping him out, but he's kind of the main hero of the thing.
Yeah. Well, like, he's the only one who really knows what's going on and who's trying to stop it.
Yeah.
There were some other people who tried to help, but they didn't fully know what they were dealing with.
Yeah. It just kind of it's like, yeah, we're just humor the crazy person.
Yeah, kind of, which typically happens. Anyway, and some odd centuries later, a spaceship of students shows up and like find Jason cryogenically frozen, and they bring him back, and well, one thing leads to another. He unthaws and goes around and starts killing everybody. Pretty typical. But and gets even sillier. Jason at one point becomes cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
Becomes freaking cybernetic, which I will admit, the look looks good. It does.
He looks pretty cool as a cyborg, actually.
He actually looks even better as a cyborg. And then, and like there are quite a few funny bits in there too, like when he's fighting or trying to kill, I should say, the main Marine guy. Like he first stabs him through the ribs. And the guy says, "It's going to take more than just a poke in the ribs to put down this old dog." And then he stabs him again, and then he goes, "Oh, yeah, that'll do it." And then
I personally like the bit in the holodeck where they had the teenage girls.
Yes, I was going to mention that. They have a holographic projector room, and so they're trying to buy time so that they can blow up the ship and then get off, and or like whatever it is that they're trying to do. And so they project an image of Crystal Lake, but he can see through it, and so they distract him with a couple of victims who are straight out of a 80s movie cliche where they're like, "Hey, would you like some? Hey, would you like some beer? Would you like some pot? Or maybe you like premarital sex? We love premarital
Premarital
sex."
sex.
And he wraps one of them up in a sleeping bag, beats the other one to death with it, and then smashes her against a tree, which was a death scene I think they took from from 6. I think. Because I know he killed somebody with a sleeping bag, who was inside of a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
By bashing her up against a tree.
Mm-hmm.
Again, brutal.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, it's just meant for comedic effect. And like the whole time, like I think the girls are even kind of giggling, like as he's beating.
Yeah, they're kind of doing it.
Ow!
Yeah.
Ow!
Oh, it's just it's silly.
Well, and it's meant to be silly. I mean, it's not.
Yeah, and that's kind of why it was kind of a good movie, because it wasn't taking itself seriously.
Yeah. I mean, this was probably about the point in the series when. I mean, I'm trying to wonder, like, was it about this point when Jason kind of became a joke? Kind of like Freddy?
Yeah, kind of.
But Freddy, I mean, he became a joke pretty early on, though. I mean,
I think it was like by the third one when we start seeing
him being a lot more slapsticky and silly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jason X and even before Freddy versus Jason, there were all sorts of rumors even in like the early 90s about a Freddy versus Jason movie happening at some point.
Yeah.
Mostly because of how Jason Goes to Hell ends, which we didn't talk about. After Jason is dragged down into hell by demons, there's a scene, I think, like...
Yeah, there's actually like a scene to where you see Freddy's gloved hand come up and grab his hockey mask down.
Yeah. And that was probably, just done as kind of a one-off joke.
Mm-hmm.
But it also started a lot of rumors and people saying, "Oh man, does this mean we're going to get a Freddy versus Jason movie? Oh man, that'd be so awesome." And 2 years later, we actually, after Jason X. 2 years later, 2003, we got Freddy versus Jason.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I did too.
It had a pretty good plot where Freddy is using Jason because nobody believes.
Well, no one kind of
Freddy
believes in him anymore because they've kind of erased him from people's minds.
Yeah. Well, and because that was kind of the only way in which to kind of defeat him was to
just basically make him non-existent.
Yeah. And so he uses Jason, who can enter into the physical world, and Freddy can't yet because he's not powerful enough. Uses Jason to try and
spread the fear so that he can feed off of it and get strong enough to actually affect them again.
But once Freddy is actually strong enough to start killing again, Jason is already on a killing frenzy, and so Freddy's like, well, I can't do what I want to do as long as if he's going to be killing people, so I got to stop him now. I have to put him down. And like I know there were some people, I guess, who were either kind of one-sided, where like people wanted Freddy to win, and I guess there were some people who were also kind of bitching about like, oh well, Jason wouldn't be like Jason would never be a good guy. Like, well, in this case, he's is the better person.
Yeah, he's not necessarily a good guy because he is killing people.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms, because I guess like how they felt like they were setting it up was that like, oh, like Jason is the good guy and Freddy is the bad guy. Well, in character case, Jason is the better character.
He is a better person because Jason, basically, when you get right down to it, he's a kid trapped inside of a psychopath's body.
And he is the more
literally doesn't know any better.
Well, and he is and also he is the more innocent because he only came back because of pure revenge.
Yeah.
Freddy.
Where Freddy was a child rapist.
Yeah. Well, and to be fair, they only kind of changed his origin later on, where I think originally he was just a child murderer. But then later on they turned him into a child rapist and a child killer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Either way.
Yeah. I like
this
what
is
they
not
did.
an innocent guy here.
Yeah. I will admit the one thing I didn't like was when Freddy went into Jason's dream and Jason has a fear of water.
Yeah.
But
I mean, they kind of psychologically kind of explained it a little bit, but then why is he always seen walking through a lake?
Yeah. I will admit, because we're in his dream, the fear can be amplified.
Yeah.
So there was probably that factor that was playing into it. I will admit. So in that case, it works. And then he goes even further into his mind, where now he is a child, and so now he's more susceptible to death. That worked. And then, of course, the final fight that we get to, is pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Where,
along with,
we actually kind of see to where, Freddy is obviously the faster and more agile of the two, but Jason can just, when he does hit Freddy, it really hurts.
Yeah. And, I mean, Jason is unkillable. He is unstoppable. Well, I mean, he is stoppable when Freddy gets a lucky shot in and cuts off his fingers, removing his machete, and then just starts cutting the ever-living shit out of Jason. But, like it's a seesaw kind of battle in a way, where it's like, like they're pretty evenly matched, and they're only kind of defeated by the people who intervene because they want to kill Freddy.
Both of them.
And I do like Jason does kind of get the final hit in where he runs Freddy through with his own claw.
Yeah.
And then Freddy does get killed by the female heroine, quote unquote, who just cuts his head off.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of the movie. It does kind of set you up.
Actually, kind of an interesting little side note on that. I saw something to where originally they had an alternate ending to where both of them, and they never actually shot it, but they had an idea to where both of them would wind up in hell and continue to fight from there, and then a bunch of chains would come out and stop them, and then Pinhead would pop out and go like, "Gentlemen, what are you doing?"
I haven't heard of that. I know there is.
I saw it on something, and they never went anywhere beyond the concept stage of it.
Okay.
Because they just decided not to do it, but
yeah,
that would have been kind of interesting.
Yeah. I know there is an alternative ending that's on the disc where the two lovebirds are having sex. Turns out it's a dream, and that Freddy is still alive. It does kind of hit at somewhat of a sequel or something, because at the end, of the actual movie, Jason, he's walking out of the lake and carrying Freddy's head, and Freddy just sort of winks at the camera.
And then you kind of hear him cackle at the end.
Yeah. Moving on from there, we have the Friday the 13th remake, which I thought was relatively fucking pointless.
Yeah. And quite frankly, it wasn't even a really good remake because they didn't remake the original. They just decided like, screw the whole original with his mother and all that. We'll just have him in it.
Well, I mean, they combined them, basically. His mother is in like the first 5 minutes and then she dies.
Yeah.
And I mean, Jason's there. He sees it happen. I don't know.
Yeah, it just wasn't that good.
Well, and I mean, it was produced by Michael Bay, who
Oh, yeah, that kind of says it right there.
well, because I mean, he had his new company, Platinum Dunes. They were remaking quite a lot of movies. They made the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which I didn't like at all, along with a pointless prequel. And so Friday the 13th somehow became their property. And yeah, I watched it. I really didn't like it. I
kind of did at first, and then kind of as time went on, I kind of thought about it a little bit. I kind of don't either now.
The one thing that did kind of get me was how in the teaser trailer, because first of all, it's a human Jason.
Yeah. Not the undead Jason.
And you saw him, running after somebody. Because up until then, like all we've ever seen Jason do is just walk after somebody, and that was it.
And he always catches them.
Yeah, somehow it's like you're walking after them. How are you gonna? Oh, right, magic. And so that was a little bit interesting, but a lot of the characters and again, like it's the same problem I had with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, where it's a bunch of kids who are just tooling around looking for a place to go get high and have sex. That's it.
There's no other reason for them to be there.
Yeah. Well, the original kids, when the movie starts, after the little intro sequence with Jason's mother, they go there because there is a crop of pot plants that are just growing there out in the wild. That's the main reason why they go there, is so they can harvest this shit and then get really rich. That's why they're out there. These other crop of kids who go out there, I think the rich kid has a really nice cabin out there, and so they go out there to party. Still, same difference. I thought what would have made it better, I don't know, if maybe they had stuck to the original plot.
With the whole counselors thing.
Hey, we're camp counselors. We're going to go out and we're going to start up this whole new camp. But the kids show up, and Jason is not only threatening and killing camp counselors, maybe he's also threatening and killing kids. That would have made it a lot more.
Kind of up the ante there a little bit.
Yeah. And
but no.
No. We can't be creative or interesting. This has to be.
Oh, we're going to have just a bunch of kids basically going out there to party and have sex and do drugs, and that's why they're dying.
This has to be as generic as possible.
Yeah.
And everybody is glistening with sweat. And I don't get that about Michael Bay's movies. Why is everybody always glistening with sweat?
I don't know.
Yeah, so that was that. The only other thing I will add, which does kind of have my interest, is somebody, or like a group of people a while ago, were doing a Kickstarter where they were making a video game that was very much inspired by the Friday the 13th movies, where it's like a 4 to 5 player game where 4 people play either camp counselors or like or like a group of kids. The other person gets to play the killer. And they and like the 4 people can all like work together and try to survive. I don't know if they can kill the killer. And the killer has his own set of strengths and even powers. But because they were using a lot of Friday the 13th material, they got sued the Kickstarter
No.
got taken down, but a few days later, the same company that I guess sued them said, "Hey, we're gonna make a Friday the 13th video game." I guess using what they were using. I don't know if when they sued them, maybe they made some sort of deal
where they get the rights to make the game.
Yeah, and maybe they paid them off. I don't really know. Again, this was something else I heard about from the Video Games Awesome People.
It certainly sounds interesting.
It does. It sounds like it could be a lot of fun if it's done right.
Yeah, it would definitely be a good party game.
Yeah.
If they do it right.
Yeah. I don't know. Who knows? Because we've only had one Friday the 13th video game. Did you ever play it?
No, I did not.
I played it very briefly when it was being displayed at like one of the video game stores that I was at.
That's a heck of a game to have on display.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it was terrible from what I understand. Well,
of course.
It was made by LJN, who were well known for distributing garbage. Well, and like as like a few other people have pointed out, it's like, well, they're a publisher. They really didn't have anything to do with the development. Yeah, but still, they held the license and they gave it out to a third party, who gave them a shitty game, and they released.
And they ran with it.
Of course, that sort of shit still happens today. Hell, Aliens Colonial Marines from which was supposed to be made by Gearbox. Instead, they handed it over to a third-party developer who didn't have a whole lot of titles under their belt, gave them back shit. To be fair, though, they realized that, well, if we delay this again, we're going to get sued. So let's just try to polish it and try to put it out.
Yeah. But
still, it's like, you should have worked on it yourself.
Yep.
But again, I mean, and like maybe the argument could be made, oh, well, you don't know anything about video games. If I knew how to make video games, and believe me, I would love to actually sit down and make my own video game. If I could get some help, I would still be very hands-on with it. Because I would not want to release a shitty game that has my name on it.
Yeah.
And to be perfectly honest, if a shitty game did come out with my name on it and it wasn't what I wanted and it looked and played like shit, I would say, I want no part of this. Remove my name from it. Well, anyway, everybody, that was our sort of retrospective on the Friday the 13th series. I'm going to try and post this up probably Friday.
On the 13th.
So we will see how that goes. Why don't you guys let us know what your favorite Friday the 13th movie was? What are your thoughts on the Friday the 13th series? And we will see you guys next time. Because later that weekend, we will be recording our top 10 list of favorite video games of all time. So we hope to see you guys then. Until next time, I'll see you guys around for another episode of The Other People or whatever else we got going on here. See ya.
Goodbye, people.
Bye.